Welcome to Ready, Set, Hunt. Whether you're an aspiring, new, or seasoned hunter, join us as we share our experiences and learn from other hunters around the country. Welcome to the Turkey Series for 2026. Christopher, how the heck are you?
Great. I realized I can kind of do a turkey call with my elk call, but I'm not going to do it for you.
You've been practicing your elk call, not your turkey call.
I'm practicing my turkey call with my elk call.
I mean, it's very similar, just different mouth shapes.
You can get to somewhat of the pronunciation, right?
I've done the opposite where my elk calls, my diaphragm calls were no good anymore, but I still had some turkey calls. And so I tried to see if I could do some elk mews with the turkey call. It works okay. It's not perfect, but it works. Anyway, Chris, we're kicking off our 4-part turkey series. Chris, I want to start off by just asking, what is it about spring turkey hunting that you love? What makes it, in your mind, one of the most exciting hunts, or what makes it special?
It's the kickoff to the year. That's how I view it. So gets you out of your house, kind of gets you away from work, and gets your mind right again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
We do a little bit of a different approach to the turkey hunting. We'll get into that, but it's probably because it's one of our most agile hunts. If that's the right word.
Agile. Interesting. See, because when I would say most people, when they think of turkey hunting, they're not thinking agile. They're thinking a lot of sitting very, very still and not doing a whole lot of moving around.
Yeah. Our turkeys that live in the areas where we typically enjoy the stock do not at all respond to calls. No, correction. They respond to calls, but
they don't come to calls.
They probably are saying, "Hey, those guys are here again. Don't go that way."
Yeah, well, despite that, we've had pretty good success. But
very good success.
Yeah. Well, Chris, why don't you tell me, so, we're gearing this towards beginners, maybe someone who's never turkey hunted before, or maybe this is like your second turkey hunt, maybe second season, maybe you didn't have any success last year after your first time out. But Chris, why don't you tell me about your first turkey hunt and your experience with that, if you can remember back that far. It wasn't all that long ago.
First turkey hunt was with you, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Must have had to be.
Was it with your bow? Was that your first one?
That was definitely my first
kill.
Turkey kill, and my first kill.
You know what? No, the first one was with
What was it?
Yeah, the one that was on the wing.
It was flying straight at him?
Yeah.
That was number one?
That was like the first turkey hunt that you were there for when he had success. Or did you hit it? No, he shot it. You both shot it.
I don't remember. I have quite a few turkeys.
This is a great story so far.
Yeah, I have quite a few turkeys under my belt, so I don't necessarily remember the hunts. I remember the locations. So I don't think I can chronologically place them year in and year out.
Yeah,
maybe remember last year's.
I feel like turkey hunting, turkey hunting is different in the fact that with deer hunting, I feel like you remember individual deer, but for some reason there's something about turkey hunting where a lot of those hunts just kind of seem to blend together, and maybe it's because turkeys aren't quite as unique. Maybe
you know what your buck looked like when when you shot him in Nebraska or took him in Wyoming, or which year that was. Like, turkeys look all the same.
That's true. Yeah, they have some minor differences, but for the most part, yeah, for me they mostly blend together. Like, I do remember hunts, and I do remember my first hunt because it wasn't a spring hunt, it was a fall hunt. But it was yeah, that was wild. That was a wild hunt.
Turkey hunting's super exciting for me from the fact that it's mind games. To me, like, turkey hunting is mind games, primarily because when we've traditionally sought to hunt turkeys in the traditional sense, you know, sit up against a tree, got a decoy out, you're calling, scratching, you know, you're trying to draw them in. That has almost never materialized, but they're very vocal. So we inherently got into more of a stock mode, and that's just how we have hunted and been successful. And it's opened up a whole new excitement level for how I feel or experience turkey hunting. I would love to put a decoy up and have a nice big tom come in and, you know, I see those videos on YouTube all the time where the hen is just getting rocked by or not the hen, the like a Jake is getting rocked by some big tom. It's like jumping on it and
Hmm.
the guy's waiting and then boom, he gets him. Never happened. That sounds awesome, but it's never happened to me. It's mine's always been like crawling on my belly for 200 yards or waiting by a tree and here they come
Hmm.
because they've kind of been pushed or they're making their way around and we've cut them off, something like that. And I know that's your experience for all the hunts that I have turkey hunting because we've turkey hunted all of those hunts together.
Yeah. Yeah, my experiences, I mean, obviously I've had a lot of the same experiences you having been there at the same time. I have had turkeys come in a couple times, which is very exciting. My very first turkey hunt, like I said, was in the fall, and me and another buddy, we spotted two toms. They were probably 300 or 400 yards away from where we had set up, and I was calling them, and bit by bit, they came in closer and closer and closer until eventually we actually lost sight of them behind a little bit of a knoll of a hill. And then next thing I know, they're about 100 yards out from us, and then they're just sprinting directly to us. So that was really cool. We got a double kill on that one. So that was my first experience turkey hunting, and from that point on, I was hooked. I was like, this is super exciting. And I think that's one of the reasons it is exciting is because with deer hunting, like if you're tree stand hunting or something, or even like duck hunting or something, which duck hunting is super fun too. But with deer hunting, tree stand hunting, you're just kind of in a spot where you think deer might come and you're hoping they might cross in front of you, cross a path in front of you. Whereas with turkey hunting, you are trying to call them into you. And there is something super fun about that exchange. You make a sound, they make a sound back. Especially when you're doing things like, crow calls or owl hoot calls, getting them to gobble at you. This past spring was probably one of the coolest experiences for me. I was hunting a piece of public that I hadn't hunted turkeys for before, and I got into a group of toms, and I was crow calling, owl calling, and they were just going crazy. And that was a super fun thing to be a part of because it builds up this excitement, this anticipation inside of you. So turkey hunting is super special. Like you said, Chris, it's in the spring. It's the only game in town unless you're going out west and doing spring bear hunting. So it really is that opportunity to get back out there after a long winter, get some of the rust off, and it truly is like a completely different challenge than a lot of other styles of hunting just based off of what turkey's strengths are and how you have to hunt differently. It's very different than hunting deer because like a deer's biggest weapon is its nose, and a turkey's biggest weapons are its eyes. And so that I would probably say that the turkey having the eyes as its weapon is a bigger challenge than the deer's nose because at least you can play the wind. But with turkeys, if you move, they'll see you. It's amazing how good their eyesight is.
It's always fun watching them dip out of town, get out of Dodge.
Yep. The
I like
the
the
thing I when
like
I
the
close my eyes and
waddle back and forth. They just like you see their butt going. They're like
yep,
they're out of there.
when I close my eyes and think of a turkey and being busted, the first thing I think is when their head goes up like this.
Yep.
When they're kind of looking back and forth. And for audio only listeners, I kind of like heightened my head up and started bobbing it side to side a little bit. It's that's when
with
you know
big
you've been
eyes.
made. That's when you know you've been made. Let's just jump right into this. So 4-part series today. We're really just going to be focusing on how to get a tag, different kinds of tags, some of the different seasons, and then really what stuff do you really need to start turkey hunting. I mean, the list is not as extensive as some other types of hunts. You're not hunting from a tree stand necessarily. You don't need all this backcountry gear that we talk about with different other hunts. You don't need a billion decoys for duck hunting or a boat or anything. To me, it's like it's fairly low barrier to entry. But before we jump into the gear side of things towards the end of the podcast, why don't we jump into talking about the seasons, tags, and different regulations that you got to think about?
Yeah. I mean, you got to have most states, I think now you got to have some sort of hunter certification or firearm
Hmm.
certification. So that's pretty much your first endeavor to accomplish. That can be done online, depending on your age. There's different requirements for it as well.
If you're a minor, you're going to have to you can do part of it online. You're going to have to do a field day. But if you're an adult over 18, you can do all of it online and you don't require a field day. And that might be different state by state, but at least here in Minnesota, that's kind of the deal.
Yep. And then obviously you're going Fleet Farm or gas station, grabbing your turkey license, which is over the counter. Pretty straightforward. And there are different regulations for what sex you can harvest in spring versus fall time. Why don't you tell us about that, Pete?
Yeah, so at least everywhere I've hunted, which I've turkey hunted in 3 states now, pretty much everywhere during the spring, you are only allowed to shoot a male turkey. That means either a Jake, which means a young male, or a Tom, which is going to be a more mature male. Way you can tell a difference between the two, Chris, is what? Mainly the beard,
Well,
correct?
there's that, but I think if my information is truly accurate, you are able to shoot a bearded hen.
Yes, that is true.
It has to have, in Minnesota, you have to be able to see the
Beard.
beard
And
visible.
for the true newbies who don't know what we're talking about, a beard is a rope looking, it's actually
It looks
technically
like a broom.
feathers.
It looks like
It
a
looks,
broom.
yeah, kind of. And it comes off of their chest. So it's long and it dangles. So if you see that, then you are good to go. Even in the rare case that it actually is a hen with a beard, typically hens don't have beards, but it has happened. And so you're not penalized if you shoot a hen that has a beard.
Typically, they're going to be juvenile males. They'll be jakes, is what they're called. Then you get your toms, which are your big adult males.
Have the
You're
long
you're gonna have a
beard,
long beard.
why they're
Uh,
also called long beards.
yep, and they're the ones that are gonna fan out. You're gonna see the tails in the fields, and then you got your hens, which pretty much you'll never. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a beard on a hen
I
when
haven't
we
personally,
when
no.
we've been out there. But they're gonna be a little bit more lean, scrawnier. Like they're not as poofy from a feather body standpoint.
Another thing to look at is the head too. They're not going to be quite as colorful on the head. Sometimes on male turkeys, there'll be different shades of blue or white or red, and they have the snood, which is that little thing that kind of hangs over their beak off to the side. If you've ever seen a picture of a turkey, even a cartoon one, you know kind of what I'm talking about. Hens don't really have those, and they don't have quite the coloration as the males. So
Yep. So
yeah.
that's pretty much it from at least a regulatory standpoint. You're going to have to
Hmm.
look at your regs as far as the firearm or bow stipulations for what's needed there to be legal. Type of shot is obviously very, very important. You don't want to be using like a 7 shot that you'd use on doves or something like that. You're going to need something hefty to. And then where are you shooting? Where are you putting the bead or where are you
I
aiming,
don't want to
Peter? Are
get
you putting it right in the tail section or
I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, Chris, because we're gonna be covering the actual taking the shot in our 4th episode. So we're gonna leave that one for
you got
now.
to aim towards it though, right? We can say that
Yeah,
much.
towards the bird typically, and then I will give a slight hint. It's going to be a little higher up on the body, and in maybe in an area that would make it die really fast. So you can kind of put
Mm.
2 and 2 together. But we will talk more about that in episode 4. Another thing to touch on is there are different kinds of turkeys, different species of turkeys. That's going to vary by region, whether you're out west where there's going to be more Merriams, or maybe you're down in Florida where you're going to have your Osceola turkeys. There's Goulds, there's Rios, there's Eastern. Eastern turkeys is going to be the most widespread pretty much anywhere. Basically, like the midsection of the Dakotas, on east is going to be pretty much all easterns, and the Miriams kind of start in the western half of the Dakotas and then head west. But if you want to learn more about that kind of stuff, I would just recommend going and Googling it and learning about the different species of turkeys. There is something called the turkey slam, which is if you kill one of every species, you are then a slam member or a slam holder. Neither of us are that, but it's something that some really hardcore turkey hunters hope to accomplish in their lifetime. Only other thing to know, I would say, once it comes to seasons, tags, and regulations is, like you said, Chris, understanding the specific regulations for your state. Some states break the turkey season up into different periods. Like in Minnesota, for example, we have seasons A through E, and we are forced to choose a hunting period, A, B, C, D, or E, and actually I think there is an F season. I can't remember exactly how many it is. We're forced to choose a season to hunt during, and then if we don't fill our tag during our allotted season, then the final season, which I believe might be F season, I could be wrong. You could fact check me here. Then anyone who hasn't filled their tag yet can hunt during that season. And also in Minnesota, we have to choose whether we're going to hunt with a firearm or a bow. You can't do both. You have to pick one or the other. And don't want to be Mr. Obvious here, but archery is way harder. So,
What's your
although Chris,
favorite?
you have killed this turkey with your bow.
I know I'm very good at it. What's your if you could hunt any of the breeds, which species or breed flare? Like obviously you're gonna get different tail colors
Yeah.
combinations, the looks of the beards or the neck area. Like you're gonna have feather differences.
I only have experience hunting two of the turkey species. I've hunted easterns, which is what we hunt here in Minnesota. It's everything I've killed is an eastern. And I did hunt Miriam's turkeys in the Black Hills, South Dakota. Man, they're so cool for different reasons. Just the colorations on their tails are really different. So Miriam's have a lot more like white colors, like white tips of their tail fan, and that's really cool. Easterns are arguably the hardest to kill, so they say, and they seem to be the most skittish and everything. Miriam's apparently they kind of have a reputation of being kind of dumb. I don't know. I think it's for me it's hard to move away from easterns. They are the biggest turkey species, and I like a little more bang for my buck. So probably easterns. How about you? I know you've only hunted easterns, but is there something you'd choose over an eastern?
I think I'd like to just experience doing a real
Mm-hmm.
hunt. Just the
Down in
arid,
Texas.
yeah, something where
Yeah.
it's warmer and hot and something like that probably.
I mean, I'd like to experience them all. Like the Osceola is only found in like South Florida, which is kind of cool. And then there is another type of turkey that is not in the United States. You can
Yeah, the
only find it.
oscillated. Is that
Yes,
what
the
it's called?
ocellated turkey. The thing basically looks like a freaking peacock, dude.
Yeah,
It's
super
crazy.
colors.
And it's down in the Yucatan of Mexico. It shares
It's like
like
Cancun, right?
it shares no, like Yucatan, like Aztec. Think like the Mayan pyramids and stuff.
It's in Mexico, right?
Yeah, it's in Mexico, but like it's like far, far south Mexico, like rainforest, jungle, jaguars, like all that crazy stuff. It's if you haven't ever seen an ocellated turkey, go look it up. It is crazy. Looks awesome. And they don't sound like turkeys. Apparently they sound like completely different. But yeah. So turkey
Moving
species
forward,
for you.
moving forward.
Yeah, moving forward. It's fun to dream. It's fun to dream. But yeah, moving forward.
With tags and knowing, regulations, you're also going to have different hunting hours, and then so just typical understanding of duck hunting, dove hunting, pheasant hunting, deer hunting. They all have obviously hours of shooting light and what that means. Uh, yeah, where do like from there after understanding regs, where should beginners hunt? Like, do you just
That
march
is
up to a farm, knock on a door, and say, "Hey, can I sit in your field and hunt for turkeys?"
that wouldn't be a bad strategy.
A lot of farmers might, more than deer hunting for sure. This is
Definitely.
subjective, but it's solid evidence. Would say that's okay, but that doesn't mean you're going to find turkeys there. So, what are we looking for when we're starting to figure out where should I hunt and
Yeah.
look for turkeys?
So we're gonna talk a lot about like e-scouting and like types of areas to find turkeys in the next episode. So we're not going to go too in depth in that here, but what we will talk about is just some areas to look. So like Chris said, you could go up to a farm and knock on the door, talk to the landowner and see if he or she would give you permission to hunt turkeys on their land. And honestly, your odds are probably going to be better on private land, just kind of the same as anything, depending on where you live, obviously. If you're talking about hunting out west, you've got plenty of public land. You'll be able to find Miriam's turkeys everywhere. They're in large numbers out there. But if we're talking like, let's talk Midwest, that's where we live, or even East Coast, finding private land is going to be your best bet for killing a turkey. But yeah, it is a matter of finding a place to hunt. And so if you don't even know where to start, like, hey, like I have farmland around me, I have all these landowners, but how do I choose where to hunt? Who should I ask to hunt? I mean, in some ways, we'll cover that in the next episode. But I mean, drive around. Like turkeys are not invisible. They're out and about, especially around here where we live. I probably see turkeys almost every day, and I live right outside of like big city. It's not hard, at least where we live, to find turkeys. So drive around maybe a little bit if you know of an area, or once you get outside of a metro area a little bit, and there's a lot of farmland or a lot of woods, woodlots, all that kind of stuff, a mixture of both. Drive around and see if you can find turkeys out walking about, look in farm fields especially. And if you see some, maybe take note of, whose property that is. If you don't know them, get Onyx and you can find out who owns that land and you can contact them and ask for permission to hunt their land. Chris, you alluded to this. People are pretty protective about their deer hunting spots. It's really hard to get private access these days to hunt for deer, but people tend to be a little more lenient and a little more open to turkey hunting. I feel like a lot of people see turkeys kind of as a nuisance. Would you agree?
I just think most people's opinion of comes down to meat, like deer meat versus turkey meat. There's a lot more people that like could not care less
Yeah.
over turkey meat. They're like, why would I do that?
I would go one step further beyond the meat and the fact that turkeys don't grow antlers.
Well,
I
there's
think
that
if
too.
I think if turkeys had
You
antlers,
don't typically mount a turkey as the only mount in your house.
yeah.
People put a deer on their wall.
Yeah, and or people will put like a tail fan of a turkey, but it's like it's really hard to like look at a tail fan and then next to another tail fan, or you just even if there's a single tail fan of a turkey on the wall, you're like, oh wow, that's a big one. You just
Said no one never.
right, like wow, that was a really nice one. It's not really like that. So I truly believe that if turkeys grew antlers, there'd be more competition. And not to say there's not competition out there for turkey hunting, especially on public land. There definitely is, but it just doesn't have the same stigma as deer hunting. So yeah, there's the private versus public land debate. And again, if you have Onyx or any of the digital mapping apps, you can use that to locate public land in your area. And then once you've located the public land, then like I said, in the next episode, we'll jump into e-scouting and tell you kind of things to look for in determining what might be a good piece of land to actually dive into and maybe do some scouting. Chris, how would you say you should avoid how what's a good way to avoid crowded hunting spots?
Well, I mean, when you pull up to any of the areas that are publicly accessible and you see 5 or 6 trucks
Not a good sign.
during a certain season, you'd probably get to know there's a few guys in here already. The best thing that I've seen is just when you're driving around or you're in the areas that you're considering possibly hunting or you're interested in hunting turkeys and just eyeballing them because you're like on your way to work, on your way home. I mean, I see turkeys all over in the metro. I see turkeys all over the place along the freeways, highways, and those are just the more common spaces that I drive. Like turkeys have made a huge comeback from being
Hmm.
really low numbers. So that gives you a lot more opportunity, especially if you do see some in a field and just like we were talking about going and knocking on a door. But I don't know what, like, did you have something specifically in mind? Are you like throwing up a flare or, getting out
No,
there
I
early
would
and putting a flag down saying area off limits.
I was very curious in general, like what are some things that you do to avoid hunting pressure or competition from other hunters? Granted, I mean a lot of the stuff we hunt here in Minnesota for the most part is private, except for
Yeah.
maybe ducks and
I
some
can't speak.
pheasants
I
and
can't
stuff.
speak to. I can't answer that with any substantive authority when it comes to turkey hunting, because we just typically have always hunted private land with that.
Yeah, we have been blessed in that way. I have hunted public for turkey. I think it's not even necessarily a turkey specific question. Just in general, I would say that if you are in an area, so the closer to a metro area or the closer you are to a population center, even if it's a town of like 5,000 people or something, the closer you are to a town, the more hunting pressure any piece of public land is going to have, right? So I usually say if you can get 45 minutes to an hour outside of a major metropolitan area and you can get at least just a few miles outside of a population center, you're going to be in a lot better shape. There might still be people there, but people won't be as willing to drive quite as far to get to these public spots, right? I also will look at a piece of public land and say, okay, how hard is this to access? Or if there's a better part of the piece of public, if that looks like the good part, but there's a bunch of barriers to entry, like maybe you have to cross a stream, or maybe there's a really steep hill you have to hike up, or you have to get through some really thick, nasty brush that the average person is just going to be like, nope, no way. That's your ticket a lot of the time, is you just have to be willing to work harder than everyone else. And we've talked about that for Western hunting, and I think it still rings true for turkey hunting and any kind of hunting here in the Midwest. If you're willing to work harder, you're going to have a better shot at filling a tag. So, yeah, that's the best way to avoid crowded spots, but also don't overlook the little chunks too. That's one thing I've learned hunting public land, whether it be for turkeys or ducks or grouse or pheasant, is that sometimes you'll see these tiny little parcels of 40 acres or less on your map. And a lot of the time, it's really easy to overlook those spots and be like, like it's so small. It probably doesn't hold game, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes those little parcels can be the best because they're so often overlooked by other people that they're kind of like these little safe havens. So never overlook those. Pay attention to those because you never know. You might just fill a tag on one of those tiny little spots. Yeah. So, Chris, I think with where to hunt, analyze your private and public land around you. We'll go more into the e-scouting side of things and topography and all that in the next episode. But next, Chris, let's talk about just the basic gear that you actually need to start turkey hunting. And we'll break it down into like the essential gear that you really need to start, and then some of the nice to haves that you can throw in if you have some extra money or you just want to hunt a little more comfortable. So let's start with the essential gear, Chris.
Yeah,
What are the things you need?
it's one of the easiest hunts to get into. You can pick up a shotgun at Cabela's off the used rack and throw some shells in there. Throw on some camouflage. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. You sit down in some tall grass or up against a tree and kind of get yourself in there. Having a turkey call is clutch. You kind of need that in order to communicate back and forth and draw anybody in. And then also you could throw in a basic decoy out in front of yourself is pretty much a must, in my opinion. It doesn't need to be anything crazy expensive. You can pick up stuff. What
20
sometimes
bucks
they're on
for a
sale for
really
10
cheap one.
bucks.
Yeah, they don't look very realistic, but
No,
it's something.
yeah. Other
Yeah,
than
well,
that, like I don't know if there's much more. You got your tag, you got your gun, you got your shells, you're camoed in next to the tree, and you're out in a area you've hopefully scouted a little bit or seen turkeys, so you know they're there. And then you just get there in the morning before sunrise and you start doing your little probing calls. And if you're close to the roost, you might get some luck pretty quick.
Well, diving into the gear a little bit deeper, so you kind of gave us a quick rundown of the things you need. Let's go a little deeper into each of those, like each of the essentials. So let's talk shotguns. Will any shotgun work, or what's going to be the best type or types of shotgun to buy if you don't have one, or maybe you already have one and you want to know if what you have is going to work?
Yeah, you're gonna first need a bird barrel because you're not gonna be shooting slugs. And 20 gauge, 12 gauge works great. Obviously, there's 10 and some other different gauges out there, but typically going to see a pump shotgun. Pumps are great, especially for starting out for those that haven't been around firearms a whole lot.
Yeah,
Prim
inexpensive too.
yeah, they're on the more cost effective side, and primarily the big thing is pump shotguns force you to think about the shot, pull the trigger, and then reload, and then re-engage your next shot on the bird
If you need to.
if you need to. Semi-autos are really fantastic. That's what we enjoy specifically in pretty much all of our hunts now. You can definitely get the person that's very trigger happy. The con to that is you're not actually allowing yourself a moment to settle into the shot. You're just kind of reacting to the environment or the situation, which can get people in trouble, especially if you're around a bunch of other people or you're hunting with a buddy or something like that. Single shot shotguns are those aficionados that like to be a little bit more. I don't know, the breech load or something like that is really fun,
Yeah.
and those are
There's
great.
been a
Those are great,
there's
but
been
you're
a I was gonna say there's been a pretty big boost of popularity with single shotguns for turkey hunting the past few years. It's like that is like the person's turkey gun because all they need, they know all they're gonna need is the one shot, and with a single projectile or single shell and just the one barrel, they can usually be pretty lightweight. But yeah, some people have been getting pretty into the breech load single shot shotguns, which is I
it's
think it's
definitely
kind of
fun. It's
kind of
respectable, and
yeah, it's fun.
it's kind of having like a custom car or something like that in that type of community. But
For us, we're more generalists, so it's like I'm gonna have a shotgun that can do it all, and that's what we use.
yeah,
We use the same semi-auto shotgun for duck and dove and turkey and goose, all the different stuff. So you don't have to get too crazy with your gun setup for turkey hunting.
I did add the red dot onto my gun now,
Yes,
obviously,
yep,
and
we did that last year.
that I think is great for me. I'm a pretty good shot, but I tend to at times not get my cheek down onto the butt of my gun to really get the line of sight down my barrel. So it's helped me be more accurate.
Yes, and that is definitely falls under the category of nice to have, not an essential piece of gear, but it is, as you get further into your hunting journey or down the rabbit hole, if you want
I
to
mean,
call
I
it that,
I
it's
could make a case that it could be essential, especially if it like sends your success rate through the roof.
I still
Yeah.
wouldn't say it's essential. Do you need it to go kill a turkey? No, you don't. You don't. But you do need a shotgun to kill a turkey. So at least
Or a
legally.
rock if you're a good shot
Or a
with
bow.
her.
Or a bow.
Yeah. Slingshot.
If all you want to do is hunt with a bow, you can do that too. We're not going to get into the archery side of things too much because I think the majority of people are going to be looking at hunting with a shotgun. All right, let's talk to me about turkey loads. Talk about shot size, maybe length of shell, and then let's talk chokes as well.
Yeah, I like running 3.5. Uh, just more oomph with the type of shell and what's being shot out of the gun. I like a fast moving velocity. So that's something I look at, especially when I'm understanding the tightness of the choke on the end of my barrel at a certain yardage. I like to sight in and live in that 40-yard space and in. I wouldn't recommend shooting probably more than that. It just gets
I've
a
shot out
li-
to 50. That's the furthest I've shot a turkey.
but it gets squirrely. Like you
It
start to
does.
get some unknowns
You
happening
start to
really
second
quick.
guess it a little bit, like,
Yep.
should I see if we can close another 10 yards or
I
yeah,
mean, you got a turkey at 30, that thing's dead if you have the bead on it. But yeah, your choke on the end of your gun is going to need to be a turkey choke or some sort of
extra full or turkey, they're often
yeah.
the same thing.
Yep.
And if you don't understand what that means, you can always go to whatever sporting goods store you buy your gear from, Cabela's, Shields, Fleet Farm, any of those. You can talk to someone there and say, "Hey, I'm shooting," or Google it too. This is the gun I'm using. I want a turkey choke. You can pick your brand or flavor or whatever, but there are different threadings or different thread pitches for different brands of guns. So you do need to figure out what type of choke in terms of thread pitch that you need. That is a very important piece of it. But you can find that out online and then, go equipped with that knowledge to the store and make sure you're picking the right choke.
Yeah. And then as far as shot size goes, as long as you're running a turkey load, you probably aren't going to have to worry about
A
really
turkey
figuring.
specific load, and they usually label
Yeah,
the boxes pretty good.
yeah. You'll
You'll
see a
know
big
it's for
Tom on
turkeys.
there, and it'll be like Turkey Extreme, or I don't know.
Yeah, I use Winchester Longbeard XR because that's the type of choke I have, and then that's the ammo that it was designed to shoot. I can shoot different ammo with that choke; it's not a big deal. But I choose to use the ammo that it was designed to use, and I've had excellent success with that. I know you shoot Federal, don't you? Like Grand Slam or something like that.
I've shot those. Those tend to be pretty great.
And then you've also used the Remington Nitro, right? For Nitro
Mhm.
Turkey.
Yep.
Yeah. They
Yep.
Here's the deal. They all work. Some of them might work better out of your shotgun, and so if you really want to, get into it and make sure that you're getting the best accuracy and the best group size as possible or the best spread, you can go and buy different boxes of turkey loads and try different chokes and figure out what pattern's best for your gun. But generally, if you find something that works well and you're shooting a turkey 30 yards, it's not going to really matter that much.
I was gonna get into I was gonna get into camo.
Yeah.
I like running the leafy top or some sort of leafy top from, it doesn't matter, I guess, where it's manufactured, but breaks up your silhouette, especially when you're sitting in some brush, tall grass, different things like that. You're still gonna stand out if it's a color like a color discoloration or discoloration with the backdrop. Like if you're wearing a really dark leafy top or, camo setup in a tan, you're gonna stick out. But
Yeah. I would argue that camouflage is more important for turkey hunting than any other kind of hunting.
completely agree.
I mean, maybe there's an argument for waterfowl, but for the most part, I would argue that turkey hunting is by and far the most important for wearing camouflage. Because I think you and I have talked about how like when we're hunting out west, even some whitetail hunting here, like I'm not afraid to wear solids. I prefer wearing solids when I can, but for turkey hunting, like I break out my camo no matter what.
Yeah.
It's important. And again, it doesn't really super matter what pattern you wear. I would say the biggest thing to take into consideration is during the time of year that turkey hunting is in your state, take a look around and be like, okay, what's typical for colors? Like maybe you live in a state a little further south where it greens up a little sooner, you're going to want to probably find a camouflage that has more greens in it. Whereas here in Minnesota, a lot of the time, by the time turkey season opens, there's very little green. It's still a lot of brown, a lot of tan, and gray. And so it hasn't been as important for us to wear camouflage that has a lot of greens in it. A little bit won't hurt, but it just makes more sense to try and match what your environment's looking like. So, yeah, I know that hunters in the south wear a lot of greens. If you're hunting in a really like a big woods area, like dark timber type stuff, maybe something like mossy oaks bottomland that looks like tree bark. That's always good, but just take a look around and you'll know pretty quickly what makes most sense for camouflage for you. With turkey hunting, the nice thing is like Chris, does it have to be super expensive camo?
No,
Nope.
no.
I would feel completely comfortable. Like, granted, I own a lot of like premium hunting gear now, but like I'd feel perfectly comfortable going to Fleet Farm, picking up the cheapest camo Wrangler jeans and a camo sweatshirt and maybe some sort of face covering and go turkey hunting.
There's a lot of hunters that love popping blinds too. So they'll pop up blind on a, fence corner or something like that.
Mhm. I'd probably put that in the nice to have gear category. Like you don't need a ground blind to go turkey hunting. I prefer actually not to be in a ground blind. I like to be able to move around if I need to or like reposition. Whereas with a ground blind, you're kind of stuck in one place unless you want to like get out, pack it up, and then go move somewhere else. But blinds can be very advantageous depending on where you're hunting. Like if you're in more open land and there's not a lot of good places for you to hide, having a ground blind is a pretty good option as well.
What would you say as far as someone brand new, what they think they need, but they don't?
Yeah, man. Someone new, I would say they probably would think that they're going to need like more decoys than they do. Or I would even argue you don't necessarily even need a decoy. I would argue that having a call and being able to use it is like effectively is way more important than having a decoy. A decoy is like
I'd agree
icing
to
on the
that.
cake.
Yeah, I would
It's a
agree to
de
that because you can still get the turkeys to come your way.
Yes.
I think my answer, if I was gonna answer that, would just be expensive gear. Like,
Yeah,
you
expensive
just
gear in
don't need
general.
to spend money.
No. That's what's so great about turkey hunting, and that's why I think it's perfect for beginners. Granted, it is challenging, but, like, it's perfect for beginners because you don't need to drop $2,000 or even a thou may you probably not even $1,000 if you can find a decent used shotgun, or maybe you already have a shotgun, even better, you know? Maybe use it for home defense, or you just like shooting clays or something, but or even if you borrow a shotgun from someone, the barrier to entry is so low from a cost perspective. It's a perfect beginner hunt. So yeah, that's a great question, Chris. I really do think that people probably think they need a decoy. You don't. You don't need one. It's a nice to have. And maybe some places, if you have really stingy birds when it comes to calling, like some of the places we hunt, a decoy might kind of be necessary if you want them to close the distance in the traditional sense where you're not having to stalk in, but you're kind of waiting for a turkey to come to you. Maybe a decoy would be necessary for them to close that distance, but yeah, certainly not something you need. Let's talk turkey calls quick here, Chris. Tell me what the different types of turkey calls are. And we'll on episode 3 of this series, we're going to be talking about calling specifically. The entire episode is going to be about calling, but before we jump into actual like the meat and potatoes of calling, let's just talk about the different types of calls that you can get, and maybe as a beginner, what would be the most advantageous.
Yeah. I run a scratch call, which is
Like a pot call or a slate.
you got a slate and then you're just scratching over the top of it. I do a pretty good job on that. And then I've gotten I've gotten better. It just takes time, but the mouth calls or putting something in your mouth,
The diaphragm is what they're called.
you're gonna have a I think a much bigger learning curve. Like when you have a slate and you're scratching it, like you can generally get some sounds right away where you're like, "Oh, I hear it in there." And then you can even looking at a YouTube tutorial of like how someone's the angle of it, not pressing too hard, and then you're slowing it down or like it's kind of like written cursive almost in some of the situations. So that's a different experience totally than having to read in your mouth. But if you have something, that has, latex in there and you're getting those calls, that's also really nice because it's super small and you can just keep it in your mouth.
Yeah, and in terms of the sounds you can make it, there's a much wider variety of the sounds you can make to try and like truly sound like a turkey. What about box calls, Chris? What are your thoughts on those?
I've had no experience with them, so I can't comment.
None. Yeah.
0.
I
Have
I
you?
haven't
Have you?
I haven't I haven't used one hunting, but I've used them before. In terms of like ease of use, box calls are definitely the easiest. They're probably actually not even probably, definitely going to be the most limited in terms of the types of sounds you can make. But I would say box call is most beginner friendly. If I were to make, well, this is our podcast. I'm going to make the recommendation. If you're going to start with anything, I would say start and learn how to use a slate. I think it's going to be the best bang for your buck in terms of time spent learning it, and then the quality of the calls you're going to get, because you can go out and buy some pretty cheap diaphragm calls and you can start practicing, but it definitely does take some practice. Watch lots of tutorials and that kind of thing, because it really is like mouth shapes, breathing correctly, getting correct tones, tongue trills, lip trills, all this kind of stuff that you have to practice and practice and practice. Whereas with a pot call, I feel like give anyone about an hour with a pot call or slate, whatever you want to call it, and a video tutorial, and you're going to be making some pretty good turkey sounds. Obviously, there's nuances with everything, but I think a pot call is probably the best way to start. So those are your types of calls. Boots. We talk a lot about boots on this podcast. I'm not
Not
as
as an
picky with
important.
boots. Yeah, I'm not as picky with boots. I mean, I like to wear boots that I can walk around in a bit and that are comfortable and are waterproof. I think those are the three main things. But it's not like you're hiking in 5-10 miles into the backcountry and need a bomb-proof boot. I just would say something comfortable that you can wear and is waterproof, and you're pretty set.
Yeah, but I think if you have like a backpack, the camo backpack, something to throw some extra stuff in,
Hmm.
that comes in handy in clutch. It's always nice to be able to pack some stuff, random stuff that you might want, or keep your calls in there and it's not in pockets or different things. But
Yeah. A
other
lot of
than
people
that,
use a turkey vest for that purpose. I've personally never owned one or used one. I kind of prefer the backpack honestly because I don't know why. I've never really cared for turkey vests. Maybe that's another thing that people feel like may or like a beginner might think that they need if they've watched a lot of YouTube videos. You'll see a lot of people wearing these turkey vests, but truth be told, like a backpack is probably going to be good enough for you. Don't need to buy the turkey vest, especially since some of them can actually get pretty expensive. Maybe one more item on the list there, Chris, for a nice to have but not necessary towards the bottom.
seat cushion.
Yeah. Do you want to touch on that? Why that would be a nice to have?
It's nice when something's not poking your butt.
Yeah, that's true. Or the ground is wet.
Yeah, that. Yeah, there's just a whole variety of reasons. It's just nice to throw something down that you can sit on. You're going to be sitting for a while, especially if you have a lot of action around you. You might not feel comfortable to move in closer to where you're hearing the calls because you have low visibility or, whatever the case. Sometimes those turkeys move like silent assassins and all of a sudden they're like right in
On
front of you.
top of you.
So, yeah, then you're not moving at all. You're staying as still as possible. And if you're trying to rotating on a cushion or something is a lot more pleasant than rotating on some rocks.
That's very true. And also, like, name of the game is sitting still, like being as still as possible, especially if the turkeys are getting close. It's a lot easier to sit very still if your bottom is comfortable. If like your butt cheek is starting to fall asleep or like you've got, something poking into your tailbone, it can be really hard to hold that position for I mean, if a turkey's close, if you can see a turkey with your eyes, you cannot move a muscle because they can see you so much easier. And so like you can't move. And if you've got a rock in your butt, it can be hard to sit like that for 10 to 20 minutes, however long it takes that turkey to come in. So seat cushions are
Especially
nice.
if you have a whole flock of them right in front of you. You got
Man, all those
20 turkeys
eyeballs.
in front of you. There's a lot of eyeballs. So you have to pick and choose oftentimes to only react when the Tom or Jake is getting up. I mean, depending on the season, the turkey you want to shoot is right in front of you. You might sacrifice a couple turkeys seeing you move for that shot. So, but you got to do that with a couple seconds because they'll blow the coop.
Yep. And when they take off, they take off quick. Whether it be in the air or on foot, they don't hang around if something feels sketch to them. So everything in the woods is trying to kill them. So they're skittish for a reason.
Let's pop forward and go realistic expectations for your first season or your first time out there. What
Yeah.
is that going to look like if I've never done it before? What should I expect, Peter?
Well, I think it's important to kind of define what to count as a win because by and large, I would say that most turkey hunters do not kill, or most beginners do not kill on their first hunt. Turkey hunting is not easy. Like it's just not. It's not easy. So most people do not kill on their first hunt. I would argue that most people don't kill their first season, like their first whole year of turkey hunting. It takes practice. It takes time to learn the bird, learn their behaviors, learn the types of things they do, what you can get away with as a hunter, what you can't. And so like there's a good chance you don't kill your first year, but it's everything is a learning experience. So what would I say is a win for a first time turkey hunter? I would say hearing gobbles, honestly, is a win because that means you found turkeys. And if they're gobbling, hopefully that means they're gobbling at something that you did, like a call.
Seeing turkeys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Seeing turkeys is a big win, but there's, I mean, we've all heard gobbles, whether it be like a recording or on TV or something, or maybe even heard them out and about. But hearing gobbles in a hunting situation is just, it's so exciting. Like, how many times have you and I just been sitting out there, Chris, waiting for the sun to come up, and all of a sudden we hear gobbles, and then we just look at each other, and there's just you just like get this
It's
excitement in
like,
your eyes,
oh yeah, they're here or
Yep.
they're close. Like that's the real fun one.
Yeah. So that's super fun. But yeah, I would just say expect failure and don't be surprised if you don't fill a tag. But if you do, that's awesome, but just like focus on maybe what you did right, or maybe what was a complete fluke and you got lucky, because hunting is like 50% luck. Yeah, anything you'd add to that? Any other expectations for your first first turkey hunt?
I think the most reasonable expectation you can have is just take a deep breath, enjoy the fact that you're out there. And if you can have some interaction with some turkeys, that's the win. Because then you're going to be able to start learning. Yeah, I
I
think
think it
that's it.
pretty well covers it.
And if your calling doesn't suck, like if you can have your calling down, that's a big win. I would say that's probably the most important thing. Like you have to be able to communicate with turkeys in order to kill them.
Yeah. I would say if you're listening to this and you're wanting to turkey hunt this spring, go get a turkey call now. Don't wait any longer, because turkey season's almost here. And look up some tutorials on YouTube on how to use the type of call you buy, and just practice, 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 practice. And then we can talk to you a little bit about some strategy on what types of calls to use and when in next week's episode. Yep.
Groovy. All right. I
Groovy.
think we can kind of wrap this episode up. This is still a little bit longer than we wanted to go, but
Little bit, but there's a lot to cover. It's hard to, turkey hunting is it's so simple yet so complex in different ways. It's like call turkey, hear turkey, find turkey, see turkey, kill turkey. But the steps in between each of those steps is quite difficult, as you will
we'll work to
come to find.
simplify things as we move
Mhm.
through the next couple episodes
Yeah, we'll
and
try and be
try to
very
put you in a position to succeed.
Yeah. And try and break things down where it's like, okay, in this situation, I should do this, or this is the goal of this move, and what it means and what position it's going to put me in. So, yep. So thank you for joining us for episode 1. Hopefully this answered a lot of your questions on how to get started, maybe some of the items that you need to procure in order to go turkey hunting. And maybe just, give you some realistic expectations of what your first experience turkey hunting will be like. But yeah, we're thankful for you guys joining us. And next time we are going to talk about where to find turkeys, because if you can't find them, you can't kill them.